Good morning. Welcome to the show. I'm Anli, an associate professor of modern East Asian history at UT Dallas. And today I'm speaking with Dr. Meghna Sabharwal. Meghna Sabharwal is professor of public and nonprofit management in the School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences, and associate provost for faculty success at the University of Texas at Dallas. She has published widely in leading journals in public administrations and served as editor-in-chief of the Review of Public Personnel Administration since fall 2023, the leading public human resources journal. Her research advances inclusive and equitable public service system and global comparative human resources management. Dr. Sapava is also a fellow of the National Academy of Public Administration and has been honored with major rewards from multiple professional sections, including the 2023 President's Teaching Excellence Award in Graduate Instructions at UT Dallas. Hi, Meghna. Thank you so much for your time being in the show today.
Thank you and good morning. And I appreciate you doing this. I've truly enjoyed listening to all the other podcasts you've done. And this is my very first podcast. So I'm really excited and I truly appreciate you inviting me to this.
You are definitely a very fun person to talk to, and you are on top of my list. I'm so glad to talk to you today. In this new season, we are trying to provide some perspective to reimagine what a tenured professor can do, and how do we transfer scholarly skills in other fields and make larger impact. Also for graduate students to think about the alternatives to an academic career. So I noticed that you took on many different roles and in your career, for example, as the program head, as the director of graduate studies, and now as the associate provost of faculty success. So how did this opportunity come up as the associate provost?
Thank you for that question. You know, the opportunity itself came about in summer of 2023, about July, when the Office of the Provost sent out a call to all full professors at UTD, and they were advertising for, they were looking for two half-time roles, one associate provost for faculty success and one associate provost for faculty affairs. You know, I was kind of open to either positions, but I found myself naturally kind of drawn to the faculty success role because I was chairing the faculty mentoring committee from fall of 2019 to almost summer of 2023. So I was chairing the university-wide committee there. And in that capacity, I was already kind of helping the tenure track faculty at the time, match them with mentors. I was helping conduct workshops for them, just building that support structure. And this was all part of a service role that I did for the university. But then when I saw this as kind of a more defined role, half-time role, I thought, wow, you know, I've done this already. And so I was genuinely excited about it, and I thought I'll be a good fit. And that's how I almost applied immediately because I thought it aligned so well with, you know, my experiences and what I believe in, and my value system. I truly believe in mentorship. I've always, you know, helped mentor a lot of students over time, and the last those few years as faculty mentoring committee chair, you know, also helping new faculty. And then remember that a lot of that was during COVID. You know, during that from 2020 to 22, we did most all programming online, and those workshops used to be filled up because, you know, at the time we needed that connection, and it truly, I think, re-emphasized this value for me of just the need for mentorship, the need for community, the need for those connections. So I still kind of even remember my experience when I started at UTD in 2009. We had a mentoring program then. It wasn't under the provost office, but there was a professor from BBS. She ran it, and we used to meet once a month, doing these kinds of workshops. And I still remember the friendships that I formed because it was a cohort, and I still, they're lasting, long lasting friendships, right? Some of them are still here at UTD. And in fact, just the other day I had lunch with one who started with me same time, but in engineering. So I've realized how important mentorship has been to me personally all along. And then I wanted to make maybe a difference in this role. And I thought, oh, wow, this fits really well. And that's how I applied.
So just to clarify, these two half-time positions, associate provost for faculty success and associate provost for academic affairs, were those new in 2023, these positions, or is
Yes.
the first time the
The
university
first time, first
those?
time. So the provost only had the vice provost. So there were only three people: vice provost, who Stephen Spiro is, and then we had the associate provost for faculty affairs. One of them, Mehdad Nurani, who does all the tenure and promotion for tenure track. But we had nobody to do for non-tenure. Position, which is where Dr. Sean Carter from your Bath School, he was brought on board, and I was on the faculty success. And then we have Dr. Francesca Philby, who's been in these multiple roles over time. And she was the one a year before me, actually, this position was started, the associate provost for, I think it's called faculty mentoring. And that's what Dr. Francesca Philby did for a year, and then the need to expand it. And that's how formally this started in 23 at UTD.
So this is an internal search for all the tenure professors across the university,
Full
and
professors only, yes.
full
Not
professors.
10, yes, yes.
So how's the selection process? Was it
Mm.
competitive? How many candidates apply? And how did you
I'm
get selected?
It's funny, when you had reached out to me that you wanted to talk about this, I went back to my emails like, hey, when was that ad sent out? Who sent it out? And I did see in July of 23 that Jill Cohen, who was the assistant to provost, she sent this email out from Inga Musselman. And I saw that, all full professors interested. We are advertising for two roles. And so it was competitive. So I imagine a lot of full professors who were interested in this. I personally know somebody who had applied who told me later, and she's not here at UTD anymore. But later I found out that while it was not mentioned in the ad itself, the criteria was, of course, full professor was the most important. But in Provost's mind, she was also looking for somebody who'd been department head and had served in leadership roles. While that was, I'm not sure there explicitly in the job ad, but that helped me. In hindsight, that was part of the criteria which I'd served from 2018 to 22. I was the department head in the public and nonprofit management program. And so I think that experience just, because when you are department head, you're working with staff, you're working with faculty, you're working with budgets, events, doing workshops, and you're doing faculty evaluations. You understand the tenure promotion processes. And so all of these things, I think, truly helped in this role that I currently am. But in hindsight, I didn't ever imagine that I would be going down this path. Um, but it worked out.
So there is a clear pathway for services and administrative role to lead to this position, but you also have to be a full professor first. So let's talk about the job itself.
Mm-hmm.
For most of people, they may not even know what's the differences, right, outside of academia between the dean and the program head and the provost.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you describe the job that you're having right now as the
Mm-hmm.
associate provost of faculty success?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this role, I would say, is certainly different from being just a full-time faculty, right? So as when we start in our careers, we start as assistant, we move on to associate. And during that associate time, I have seen there are many faculty who are tapped into, hey, do you want to be, you start with director for graduate studies, for example. That's usually where I've seen people start off if there's interest. And at the time, I just made tenure in 2015. 2016, the former, we didn't call them DGS, then we called them PhD director. Was leaving, he was retiring essentially. And so that position came about, and I was working a lot with students, a lot of doctoral students, helping them publish this, that. So I was naturally inclined. They asked me, the department head at the time said, Meghna, would you be interested? And I gave it a little thought. And I said, they said, we'll give you a course reduction. And they had a minimal stipend. But, nobody does it for the stipend per se. But the course reduction was helpful for sure. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And so that was my first stint with kind of administrative role. And I truly enjoyed that. I think it was one of the most rewarding, not that the other roles have not been, but it was truly rewarding because I was working with students anyways and mentoring them. And now it was just doing it for all, right? Not just for a select few. So I did that for 2 years. And that's how normally, typically, I would say faculty would start within their departments. And then 2018, we had a new dean, and the dean was looking, to bring her people in. And so she asked me if you'd be interested to serve as department head. And that, I think, was a big shift for me, right? That was not something I'd planned on. I was still associate professor, and they were full professors in my program. And if I had to be a department chair, then I had to do the evaluations, work with people who are senior in rank. And so I did have some hesitation, but the dean at the time assured me, she said, try it out for a year. So then that's what I did. I agreed to do it for a year. But hey, 4 years later, I said, well, I'd agreed for a year and now it's 4 years. And then COVID hit. So that time was also challenging. And, you truly care about your program. I do, and I care about my school. And so that was an opportunity to, in that sense, make a difference in whatever way that I could. And so I did that for 4 years. Department head is not an easy job. You're always on in that sense, because there's always something coming at you from all directions. And so it was a lot of good learning experience, I would say, for me. I truly learned a lot. And then when I stepped down in 22, I was just thinking of just being a full faculty. I was associate editor of this journal, ROPA, and that was in the horizon, because the editor her term was going to end, and she had encouraged me to apply for that. So I thought, okay, the next step would be, after I've done these administrative roles, to take on a role, say, outside for my profession, right? And so that's where I was headed, and that's what happened. In 23, I went through the whole interview process with Sage, and that's when I got, I think by May or so, they announced that I'll be the next editor. So that was my plan. This was not part of the plan, but the job ad came, right? The opportunity came about, and I thought, well, I've just taken on this new role as an editor. It's a lot, but am I ready to take on this other role too? And so I think in life, sometimes, opportunities present themselves while you may not think about it as part of a plan. I never truly had this blueprint or a plan for myself. Opportunities came about, and I thought that this fits with my value and my interests, and that's how I went for it. And so when this ad came about, I felt, wow, I was chairing this, like I said, the faculty mentoring committee, and I enjoyed the mentoring, and I really understand the value of mentorship. So I thought, wow, this is time to give back. This is time to make a difference. So while I'm doing different roles, as you mentioned, but I think all fulfilling roles. I would not take on an administrative role if it wasn't something that excited me. I would never do it just for the title. I think then it's just disastrous in that sense. But do it because you believe in it, because you have passion about it. You align with the value, and so all of these roles, while they are all very different, but because I think I'm just I enjoy it, and I'm truly thankful that I can give back. It doesn't quite feel like, oh, these are like 10 different jobs, but it truly, I think, aligns well with my value system, and it's been a quite, I would say, a blessing in that sense.
So since 2003, after you step into this new role, and how would you describe the job? Like, what are you doing right now? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the job like? Let's put it this way. What is the job like from a day-to-day basis?
Day to day, so this role essentially, as you know, is for, we first called it faculty mentoring, but then we realized we're doing more than just mentoring, right? We are putting together workshops, we're doing things for faculty, not just for, earlier we were just so focused on tenure track. And now we have, when I came into this role, I thought, wow, we don't do much for our non-tenure system faculty, for instance. And we have a large number of non-tenure system faculty who do a lot of the teaching, as you know. And so they are very essential to any university and, of course, to UTD and its success. So I thought, we need to include them as well. So we expanded the scope, and the title was renamed to Faculty Success, and faculty means all faculty. And then we started including, so let me give you an average. Last couple years, we've been hiring about 100 new faculty every year, both tenure track and non-tenure, close to half-half. And so we have to match all of these 100 or so with mentors. And the first year I would go back normally to the department heads, or if it's a smaller school, to the dean or vice deans, and give them a list of new hires and say, who would be a good mentor for them, and they would give me a list. The second year, I talked to the provost and said, I think the new faculty should also have a say in the process, and maybe we should ask them who they would also like, and then we can find a match that way. So we changed the process a little bit last year, and every new faculty that is hired, I send them a little form and ask them to give me up to 3 names of faculty they think could be their mentors. Now there is a caveat there, right? The mentors cannot serve on their tenure promotion committee, and the provost is very clear about that. There's conflict of interest, so we let them know upfront. But that process has helped for sure. Not for all faculty. Some don't, some just leave that choice to us. But some, I think, then they feel they're part of this process, right? That they have a say in who their mentor should be. And then I take that list and I go back to, say, the department head or vice deans or whoever I'm in connection with at every school and every department, and then ask them, hey, this is the list they suggested. Who do you think? Because the department head will know, like, so and so is overcommitted, or I don't think so and so, let's go with. So they give me their suggestions, and then I take that list back, and then I make the match. I contact both the mentor, asking them if they are willing first, and if they say yes, and then we make the match, and then give them things they could be doing. Some of them are matched as early as May, June, depends on when they are hired, and some later. But say by July, my hope is all the faculty are matched except the non-tenure system faculty, because some of them are hired last minute, teaching faculty. But we usually find them a mentor as well as soon as they come. But then we start planning, on a day-to-day basis, as you said. We do about 4 to 5 events a month. This year, our events have gone up since last, and they can be couple workshops a month, social events. Last Tuesday of every month, we do coffee and connections, and earlier it was just limited to new faculty and their mentors. But then we thought, how else do these new faculty meet other faculty on campus? So we've opened it up to all faculty now, and so just this last one, we had a good attendance for Thanksgiving, this Tuesday on the 18th. And then in spring too, we'll open it up so the new faculty have a chance to meet other faculty, and also other faculty have a chance to connect with each other. So this is the venue. If you think about it, this was number one question we would get always when we do. I also do new faculty orientations, right? So the fall orientation is huge, as you can imagine, with 60, 70 faculty there, and it's a day long long. We really have to organize all the key people on campus: Office of Research, Student Success, undergraduate office, graduate office, CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning, Office of Research and Innovation, OIT, all of these people, right? So it's a day-long thing that we start working towards, and we do it both times in fall and spring, because we also have faculty come in spring. So during those sessions, we take feedback after events, and one of the things that would always come up is, where do we meet other faculty, right? Orientation, you meet your cohort, you meet other people, you meet the key folks on campus, including provost, president, but then where do you meet other faculty on a regular basis? And that's been a challenge, I would say. At UTD, we don't have a faculty club or a dining, and so that space is not there. So we thought, wow, maybe let's try to fill that gap by opening up these coffee and connections once a month to all faculty on campus. It doesn't have to be restricted to new ones. So that we've done for sure, and that, I think, the first one was very good. Uh, I'm thinking moving forward, once the word spreads, that it will be a good way for faculty to connect. So we do that. We do workshops on anywhere from publications, grants. I have a calendar of events that we have to put together before the new faculty start in fall. I've planned out the entire year, and we put it on our website with where will it be, the venue, speakers, of course, we work on later, but the dates and everything, because we understand faculty are busy, they have so many other commitments, so we want to get this on the calendars early on. So come early summer, we'll start planning for the whole year out. And then this is the time now I'm preparing for the spring orientation. We have about 15 faculty start there. And we don't do a whole day, but like 8:30 to 2 p.m. Is their orientation, because just, there's so much coming at them as new faculty. There's so many unknowns. So we try our best to make the process as simple, or let them know, hey, we are here for your support. We want to put people in front of them, a face in front of them, and I tell them always, I may not know all the answers, I'm learning to in this role, but I'll connect you with the right people. And that's, I also see that as part of my job, is because we have faculty from across all disciplines. I'm a social scientist. I'm learning about labs and wet labs, and what are things required, and lab is a big issue. Space is a big concern. So we try to do workshops too, even before they start at officially start. We do couple workshops in summer. One is for CTL to help put like syllabi together, because they're thinking now some of them would be teaching, first time teachers. So we do that. We help them with e-learning, do a workshop there. And then this past fall, our first workshop on just compliance, labs, animal, if they have animal research, human subject research. So we put a whole workshop for them, how to set up a lab, what are some, had folks from facilities, lab, compliance, risk. So just for them to kind of get that process started early, because it takes time, as you know, to set up a lab and do all of these things, and their success hinges on whether the lab is set up and can they hire students and get the research going. So I would say, this role for me, in our faculty role, we are very limited to just our research and of course teaching. That's kind of the center of our world, right? Whereas in this role, I think you're not just thinking, even if as a department head, I was just thinking of my department. This is kind of a much broader view that one has to take, because now you're thinking about the entire university, you're thinking institutionally, you're thinking about success for all faculty, not just within my program or within my school. And so it's a more proactive role also, because I have to anticipate the needs of these faculties. And like I said, I'm a social scientist, and I've really learned so much when it comes to needs of folks in other departments, other schools, what they need. And so I think it's a great learning experience, but also a great way to kind of kind of think of ways we can bring this campus community together, because again I feel we are all so siloed in everything we do. And even in your own school, do you know all your faculty? Do you know who's doing what? Some we don't. It's just the way UTD has been growing, and we really have grown so fast. So what can we do in this role to bring this community together, feel like they're not alone? So doing all social events, we do a lot of social events too, for that purpose. So the campus community feels like they are there for each other, and the new faculty truly feel like they belong. And that's also part of my research. I can talk later. So I've been fortunate I can bring that aspect of my research and actually truly put it into practice. So it's been great.
For sure, it is very important for faculty to know other colleagues across different disciplines.
Hmm.
But some of the advice are pretty discipline specific, right? I went to
Right.
one of
Yeah.
the orientation event that you organized in September
Hmm.
this year. It was
Right.
really
Right.
cool. But I did notice that some of the advice were given to people who are running labs or
Yes.
like applying for grants in
Yeah.
natural sciences. So
Yeah.
as someone coming from humanities, I don't feel
Yeah.
necessarily like very relevant like to
Yes.
advise people
Yes.
or to people's
Yes.
advice. So my question here is that how do you see the overlapping mentorship,
Mm.
different kinds of workshops and advice across
Hmm.
campus? Like can the work
Hmm.
that you describe be done
Yeah.
on the school level instead of the
Right.
university level, or maybe be done
Right.
PDL to be more discipline specific? Why is it
Hmm.
important to have a role on the university level as the
Hmm. Hmm.
associate
Yeah,
provost?
that's a very good question. I think there are a couple things here. Of course, every school is very different. Even within the school, there are programs and departments that are so different, right? So each have their own disciplinary norms, where to publish, how to publish, where not to. So at this level, it's very hard to cater to every need of every school. But there are certain things at this level that that are common knowledge that everybody should know, right? For instance, we do workshop on tenure and promotion. Now, tenure and promotion guidelines, of course, there are things that every school specific has, but then there are university level things that one must know, even the timing of when to apply. When should I start thinking about it? Especially very critical for those going from associate to full. That timeline is not as defined as from assistant to associate. So for faculty, they're like, what? I didn't realize that the application is due April 15th versus, when we go up for tenure, it's September 1, right? And so these kinds of the university policies, procedures, it is very important for faculty to know and kind of to be on that same page. So that's one place that we help. The second is I also see this as bringing the community together. You may be from different disciplines, but recently we did an event in October, end of October, where it was a research networking event. And what I did was I asked faculty what their research interests were and what would they like to collaborate with. So for instance, even in the Bath School, there were folks who are doing, theater, or they are doing even videography or filmmaking, and they were very interested to collaborate with somebody in the brain sciences, for instance, trying to understand autism, or if they wanted to make a documentary on that. So at this level, you can't do this at the school level, right? At this level, we can think of how do I foster more interdisciplinary, because again, while our departments and disciplines are certainly important, I think the problems of this world, right? I mean, if we call them the wicked problems, right? These wicked problems cannot be solved just by staying in your little disciplinary boundaries. So this interdisciplinary research, multidisciplines coming together, also in many grants, that's a requirement now. So I feel like we have such wonderful talent across UTD, faculty doing just fabulous work, but there's no opportunity for bringing them together in ways that one, doesn't normally think of. And I think we could do it at this level. So that workshop, just to give you an example, we had a professor who does computer science, and she came in, each one had to introduce themselves, the areas, and then talk about areas they want to collaborate in outside. And she was like, I do not wish to meet anyone from computer science because that's what I do all day long. I want to meet with somebody in policy who does transportation policy, for instance, because she's doing the technical side of things, but she wants to take her work and translate it into how is it going to be relevant, right? And that's important for, I think, where we are right now in universities. Universities are being challenged from all across. And if we want to stay relevant, we have to address the day-to-day problems that citizens face, right? And how do we do that unless we open up our minds and open up avenues and create structures and platforms where faculty can actually come together truly in a meaningful way. And so that's just a start. I'm hoping, we'll do more of these. And they are internal grants. As you know, Office of Research and Innovation has some internal seed grants on specifically for multidisciplinary research. So hopefully when they meet, they think of ideas and then apply for those grants. And those are kind of smaller grants, but the goal is it will lead to bigger grants, right? So these are things that I think our office does. While those workshops, yes, we can't cater to all. We try to bring in folks from all different disciplines, but other schools are doing their own things. For instance, the School of Management has their whole mentoring program for new faculty. Engineering folks have started. BBS, Brain and Behavioral Science, do. I understand certain smaller schools may not have the bandwidth. So how then we don't want them to be left out. So here's an opportunity. Come to this. Not everything will be, of course, relevant, but then take what is most relevant for you, and then build that community too. Because not immediately, but I think as you work your way up and as you establish your research, you will see that there are spaces I wish I collaborated with somebody in X area, or I feel like I could use expertise, and that's where I think our role comes in, kind of a step ahead, from just kind of thinking in your disciplinary norms and boundaries.
To open up more possibilities that people may not
Absolutely.
see in
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of amazing and very important things that you have done since 2023, only 2 years. So let's talk about yourself. Okay, I've been
That's a
doing a
hard
lot.
part.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
hard
hard part.
part.
Hard to put you on the spotlight. So you have been doing so many things, right? And it is a half-time role as the associate provost, and you're still teaching, right? You're still
Yes.
teaching at least one course every year. So you have your undergraduate students, you have your PhD students, and then you are also the editor-in-chief of a major journal. So how do you balance all these kind of roles? Like, do you have a
Mm,
way, a system, like on a day-to-day basis to be able to
yeah.
manage all different kinds of hats in your life? Maybe not
That's
life
a
yet, just professional life for now.
yeah, that's an interesting question. I've always thought about it, and balancing these roles. I think balance itself to me is a myth, because if I try to remain balanced, I feel like the image of the cards coming crashing down comes to my head, and I don't want to be in that where everything is coming crashing down, because yes, we all do so many things, not I think just me, but so many of us do. And then we even forget, apart from this professional, right, we also have our personal, as a parent, as a spouse, as a daughter, as a friend. We have so many of these different roles, and if we think we have to remain balanced and give 100% to each of these, I think it's just impossible humanly. And so what I have learned over time, I think I've just learned to prioritize. In the past, I would respond to an email right away, right? And that was how I functioned. I didn't want things to be left. I responded immediately. I still respond, but I prioritize now. I don't expect an immediate response unless it's very urgent. I will, but within a reasonable, I give myself 48 hours based on what is on the priority list, and I'll, of course, mark it as and then work towards work my way down. And the urgent ones, in the past, I would just immediately respond, and that would put a lot of pressure on me. And now I don't have that kind of time. So I'm given myself a little more grace and said, it's okay, Meghna, if everything doesn't need to be that urgent. And most things are not actually. We make it in our own head. So that has helped to, to learn how to prioritize. Also, I think just your experience over time helps, right? So when I started as an assistant professor, for example, I would spend 2 days prepping for one class and I was teaching two courses, right? And so that's like 4 days gone, plus your day times of teaching. These are usually, I teach 3-hour classes. Um, and 5 days just gone in teaching related stuff. That leaves you barely, if you were to work all weekends, 2 days for your research. And that's what happened. I was working 4 to 5 days on teaching related stuff and doing 2 days of research. And I felt I was working all the time. And again, that is not sustainable. Over time, what I've realized is you could do a, a good job, even maybe better or the same, by not spending 2 full days prepping for one class, right? As you grow in your career, that time has shortened now, right? For instance, I'm teaching a PhD class now, and I would probably spend half a day. But that also comes with time and experience because you've taught that class now and you do research in that space, so you have more to contribute. So another example I can give you is doing journal reviews. Earlier I've done up to 4 or 5 a month. I've done many journal reviews, and that would take me so long. It would consume a lot of my time. I would take days to do one review, um, and that also has shortened now. And also being in editorial role, the experience is you know what you're looking for, and it doesn't take me days now. It may take me a few hours to do one review. So I think. As we grow in our career, and when I was an assistant professor, I thought, oh my God, I'm the busiest person on this planet, right? Like I thought, oh my God, after I get tenure, I'll take a breather and I'll have so much time. And actually, no. And I think that's another myth that was busted for me. And it was an eye opener where I thought, oh, you get busier, right? So I don't think as you progress in your career, you're so involved with, your research people know you, you're involved with professional associations, your network is growing and expanding, you have so many more things you're involved with. So the work actually multiplies, I would say, in wonderful ways. And I do feel privileged to do what I do, but I feel like, you really learn the art to prioritize. You get more efficient at doing the same things you were taking much longer, and then you're able to do them well, but with a shorter time. And I think it's a learning process for all of us. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring out. Is there a magic formula? I don't think so. I just am adjusting and evolving as things are unfolding in my own life, my personal. I'm giving myself permission now to even sometimes just pause, to reset, and then just accept the fact that nothing is balanced. And if I aim for that balance, it's actually going to put so much undue pressure on me. So I'm okay. I'm trying to set few boundaries now. And that's another work in progress for me, is learning to set boundaries, but I'm giving myself more grace. I love my work, so it sometimes doesn't feel like a job. Because then, but learning to, I think, prioritize, pace yourself, being intentional about taking breaks, being intentional about what you say yes to also. I was very quick to say yes in the past to many, many things. And now I do take a little pause and break and think about it and say, do I have the time to fit this? While everything interests me as faculty, I think we are curious people. We are excited about a lot of things, but does it fit in, or do I have the time? Will I able to commit? So those things I think have helped me trying to work these different roles and are
How would you
balanced.
describe how would you describe a typical workday for you, Meghna? Like from
Uh,
getting to
yeah,
going to sleep. Like, if you don't mind, I'm just very curious because I'm
sure.
very impressed how much you are able to get done. So what is a typical workday for you?
typical work day is usually I wake up around 6, get my son, get his breakfast and lunch ready, and he's off by about 8 o'clock. So 6 to 8 is generally around him. And then I get ready. In the past, when I wasn't in this role, work a lot from home. But now I've been coming more to the university. I'm usually here about 4 days in a week, and so then I come to campus, and then essentially I have my staff, and then we go through some of the things that we have to. For instance, hey, if there's a workshop coming up, do we have everything lined up, everything ready? Is the food ordered? All the CERA forms filled out, all of that. We have our meetings and we go through that, and then I'll just, of course, see my email, what are the urgent things, respond to that. And sometimes I usually bring lunch, so just take a little break there. If the weather is good, I might get out, take maybe like a 5-10 minutes to come back in, right? And then go back to working. Then my journal comes in, for instance, and something urgent is there that I may have to attend to, or like a student, someone who's finishing their dissertation, the deadlines coming up. So whatever those deadlines are, I have my list of priorities. I have a separate folder for deadlines, and I just put everything there, and then that's a good one to me that I visit every probably twice a day, just to see what were the things on that I need to kind of finish up, work towards, and that's how. And then by the time I realize it's evening, and I head out around 5ish. Depends if there's an event, I'm here longer, but and then go home, and thinking of dinner, trying to spend a little time with my 11-year-old, asking him about his day, and his homework and stuff. So we then I pivot towards little home stuff. If I have time, I may go to a yoga class, but that's kind of rare during the weekday. I've tried, but it's mixed. Some days I'm successful, some weeks I'm not, and that's okay. And that's what I've realized. I cannot beat myself up if I say didn't go to a class, like just the time didn't allow, or there were other things that came up. So then we have dinner, and by 8 everything is done, and then usually towards I do go back and spend a couple hours back at work, just some emails or some things that may need a student letter, for instance. Those they generally come in last minute, and they need a letter to be sent. It's a job market time. I work with many PhDs. I have 5 PhDs on the job market right now, and just making sure I'm sending out the letters for the jobs, and just working with whatever that couple hours I have at night, clearing some of that stuff. And about 10:30ish, I'm usually off to bed, and then my day starts back again. So that's a kind of typical weekday. And then weekend I have more time, and then I could do some of the yoga that I really enjoy, or taking a walk, or going meeting my friends. And so I try to do that over the weekends.
Sometimes I feel like when I'm at work, I after drop off my kids at school, I feel guilty to go to work, I have to say.
Mm,
And but then after being with my kids for a while, and I feel like going to work is a break for me. And so I feel like I'm constantly switching between like being a
uh-huh.
professional and being a mother, and I
Yeah.
feel guilty for both. I feel like I can never do either one like perfectly fine.
And you're right. I used to when he was younger. I don't know how old your kids are.
4 and
Um,
10 years apart,
yeah, and so
and
when
you
they're
mentioned 11 years old.
yes, so when they're younger, they also need you more. And I think that's the time even I felt the way you are feeling. But also, I was lucky at the time I was working a lot from home too, so I could be there. And I'm glad the way things have progressed in my life and career. He's growing too, and boys, yeah, age 11, yeah, they want to be sometimes by themselves. They don't want too much of parenting either, so they are okay. And I know that as they grow, as they get to their teens, they don't want moms around or they don't want their parents, but I do want to be around as much as I can. But yes, I think it's a natural human feeling, and as moms, it's very natural. I used to be like, oh my God, I don't want to leave him and go here and there. And we also travel a lot, right? I do have a lot of travel engagements too, and it was when he was younger was much harder. Thankfully, we did have, and I could not have done this without her. We had a nanny who lived with us for the first 5 years, and that kind of support and help was truly, truly, I think, so valuable for me that I could not have been doing what I did if not for her. Normally, when we are back in our home countries, I'm an immigrant. I grew up in India up until my undergraduate. We have such extended families. We have so much help that raising a family, it's changing now, even there. But still, I think those family networks are so strong. Daycare is not as expensive. All of these factors that make it a little bit harder here. So having a stay-at-home nanny for the first 5 years was a blessing, and I was able to get, but not everybody. I'm speaking from a point of privilege, truly, right? Because not most people cannot afford that, and we are again very blessed we could do it, but I think it's a very challenging thing, especially when you have young kids.
This seems to be actually a common problem mentioned by many female faculty
Yeah,
because faculty in academia is really unique, the job.
yeah,
There are only like 20 positions open in the country. So you don't pick where you want to work. And you usually displaced in a place that you were not born and grow up in. So you just
yes,
have the supporting network, like for
yes,
childcare or compared to other
yes,
professions.
yes.
I feel like making women working, succeeding and sustaining in academia especially difficult.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you have the means, get help, but if you don't, I can imagine it just is very, very hard. And then even family, they can only come, they have their lives too, they can come maybe 3 months at a time to help. And my family did come initially for 3 months. My mom, my dad, my sister were here to help, but then they had to go, and so yes, those are challenges that we are faced with, truly, especially in the US. It's probably one of the only developed world where we don't have paid maternal leave also, or paid parental leave. And all of those challenging, of course, that's a whole different area, but um, we understand that it's not easy.
So, as an associate provost for faculty success, what kind of things you think the institution on a
Mm,
university level could
mm.
possibly help with this challenge of female faculty and faculty parents?
Yeah, I think this is, since I've started here, this has been a thing under discussion. There used to be a diversity committee. We don't have that anymore. But I was also vice chair of that committee. And one of the biggest thing always that came up was childcare. We did have something for faculty, like in the student union, and even that is gone now, where you could leave your kids for a couple hours. We don't have that for I think for a top research university, if you want to think about, now I'm talking with my HR hat on, right? I teach public HR. And so if you want to retain talent, you want to attract talent, you want to think about creating the best work environment, I think you have to have these various support systems. And one of the biggest one being childcare. Now, I understand the biggest argument around that has been that we don't have an education program, we don't have education school, so it's hard to bring in the childcare. And then the other argument is there's a lot of liability around it, we cannot do it. But I think we need to, I mean, there are universities who are doing it, and there are many universities who have these facilities. how can we, I think, bring this back front and center? The environment politically, as you know, is just not helping either when it comes to these issues, when it comes to issues of genders or minority faculty. And um, I feel people are shying away, but I think our strength will be if we are able to bring this conversation back in and find ways to support, especially our women faculty, our women and minority faculty, our male faculty too. You know, they may be single male parents. I mean, so I think this would be a very useful thing to bring back. Now we have a new president, and we are going to have a new provost. So I imagine some of this will come back because this comes up in surveys all the time. So in my capacity, you know, we'll bring back this discussion. I've always also advocated for some sort of a faculty, a dining or a faculty club of some sort where, you know, we don't have to stand in line or skip lunch because you know that student union line is so big. And that'll be a great place again to, if you're thinking about, I always think about building community. If you think about building a supportive community, you know, while it's good to have all these policies and workshops, but those can only go so far. You even need some structures and a place to be able to do that. So that's also on my mind. So I feel like hopefully we can keep bringing back these important support systems for faculty.
Yeah, for sure. So I went through one of the panel that you organized. It's a wonderful
Uh-huh.
panel to
Thank you
get
for being
support.
on it.
And that's absolutely wonderful. One thing I noticed, and you also pointed it out, is all the panelists are women. And they're
Yes.
women leaders in the university, and many of them are actually also parents. Because one
Mm-hmm.
of them, she left, she said she need to pick up her child at 1 o'clock, and
Mm-hmm.
very,
Mm-hmm.
very accommodating. And
Mm-hmm.
then we all understand as a panelist
Mm-hmm.
as panelists. So, but there was always a myth for me for women or faculty parents or like faculty mothers in academia.
Mm-hmm.
Some make it and some did not make it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as someone who make it and also as someone who study faculty success and women's success in academia, this is also a research field.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of commonality or what kind of common features or characteristics you see women who are succeeding or sustaining in this job in academia?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'm thinking back to a study that I'd done on this. In public administration, of course, but I think women who felt, and another study I did at the federal government level, women who felt that they were empowered, what I found in my research at least, women who feel who are empowered, who have a voice in the process, who felt supported by their leaders and supervisors, those were all over, you know, just a couple studies that I've seen are very key for folks to not just stay but even be successful. So mentoring, for instance, right? Having a network of mentors. While in this role we assign you with one mentor, but having a constellation of mentors. And that's something we've been telling our new faculty too, is like, you want to be successful, have folks in various areas, not just for your research, but also, hey, what do you do when you want to take a break? Do you have somebody outside? You know, who do you have as your peer mentor, who you have almost as a near peer mentor, who's gone through this couple years ahead of you, who can maybe help you and guide you? Because again, you know, as new faculty coming in, there's so much being thrown at you, right? You're starting first time teaching, setting up your lab, you're hiring students, or you have, you know, so many commitments, you're starting up your research, publication, grant writing. I mean, it's very overwhelming for anyone. And so if you have these, I think, 4 or 5 mentors, not just in your institution, outside your institution, somebody at various stages in their careers, I think that is very, very helpful to keep you grounded, to keep you just sometimes to say, I understand, you know, we all went through this. You know, sometimes even just listening and hearing from someone who've gone through that, those same struggles, makes you feel, oh my God, I'm not alone, right? Oh, there is somebody who's going through this. I used to think, oh my God, I'm the only one who's struggling with all of these. But I think once you talk to these people and you have that, that a network of mentors, that is very, very important. And that's shown in my research too, is, this mentorship coaching, um, your leadership supporting you. For instance, I remember when I was department head, we had just hired a faculty. The hiring was done by January for that fall. She was hired on, and then she told us in Feb, I believe, that she just found out she's pregnant. And I said that's totally fine. At the time, we did not have this parental policy. We do have one now, where you can avail a whole semester off. And so that time we didn't. And so I, as a department head, I used my own discretion, whatever little power I had, and I said, hey, that's okay. You're starting off in fall, I understand, but you'll just be giving birth in August, and take that semester off. And so that was something, as her supervisor, I felt I could use that. I may have broken some university rules. Hey, so be it. But I told her to take that time off, and then she could make up for that class. They already have a course reduction. She could make up for it later. And I know that she was thankful for it, because I know I've gone through it. And when I was going through it, my department head at the time was a woman, and she said nobody had gone in these 8 years. Like, she had a baby, and there was no rule or no policy, and she had to just work her way through. And then next person was me. So it was about 8 years nobody had a baby. And so she said, Meghna, take fall off. So my son was born in June, and she asked me to just take fall off, and said we'll worry about it later. So because she understood that for me, that first year was very challenging, and for most all women. I mean, we are like zombies. The sleep pattern is mixed. Everything is so hard, and I don't think people realize it. And so it depends on your leadership, your support system that you have, and those are very important. And I could definitely look back and say, if I didn't have Cheryl was my department head, Cheryl Skaggs. If I didn't have her understand and tell me take fall off, it would have been a very different situation. Would I be successful? Would I have gone through so many other issues? So I feel like all of these play into it. Of course, having institutional policies, institutional support. I'm glad we have this parental policy now that faculty can avail. And that helps both, even if you're adopting a child, or if you're having your own, or for other purposes. So I think we need to do more. We If we want our faculty, and women faculty especially, to be successful, we have to provide great support systems. We cannot tell faculty don't have kids during your tenure track years. And that was an advice that I received, unfortunately, when I started off, and I don't think that was the right advice. um, but I took it to heart, and then of course I had my struggles to even have my son. But what I would say is, be supportive in every possible way. Help them out with their teaching schedules. Don't keep adding new classes for them, for instance, right? Especially new faculty, be aware of how many new preps you've given them. What's the class size you're giving them? Are you giving them these large, big classes that take up so much time, energy? So I think these are things we can do in our own, in our capacity in the department. And as a department head, I was aware of those issues, and you tried our best to make our faculty feel supported.
For sure. UTD is definitely very supportive. And I do feel like being in an R1, having more flexibilities in terms of schedule and really help with,
Hmm.
especially like you said, like for the first couple of years. So speaking of
Absolutely.
UT Dallas,
Hmm.
I moved to UT Dallas like 2 years ago, and I absolutely love it.
Oh,
Surprisingly, everyone says different things about Dallas, and Texas in general, but I
yeah,
really enjoy the people,
yeah.
exceptionally nice, and I really enjoy the food. That's
Oh,
surprising. So good food and
yes,
so diverse.
yes.
So, as a university administrator at UT Dallas, one of the major research universities in Dallas, How would you describe working in Dallas or working in Texas? How do you enjoy life here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was in Arizona for a very long time. I got both my master's and PhD there. So I was there about 8+ years. And Arizona, while I didn't enjoy the heat at all, it was just terrible. Everybody said, "Oh, you're from India, you should be okay." But I'm like, no, this is beyond. Like, you have 120 days forever, and the summer feels like so long and just hot. And I said, no, I'm not used to these kinds. While I loved Arizona because of the proximity to things, we could just drive and go to California, Utah. So I did a lot of that road kind of trips there, and then from there I moved to New York. I mean, a whole different experience. I absolutely loved New York. It was just so vibrant as a city, and felt like I'm back home in India, and I loved every moment except the weather. It was too cold for me. So I went from one extreme heat to the other. And then when I moved to Dallas, I found, like, it was August and people were complaining of how hot it is, and I thought it was fantastic. I was like, this is great, except I felt it was very humid, because I wasn't used to that kind of humidity coming from, say, Arizona. And then when I went to Houston a month later, I thought, oh my God, I cannot breathe, right? Then I appreciated Dallas so much more. But it took me a little bit of time to appreciate Dallas, because at first I was like, what is there to do here? But that after that, I think it is one of the best places. My husband loves it. I love it, to raise a family. Just like you mentioned, the food. I mean, any kind of food. I am from India, and I mean, where we live, it's truly amazing the amount of grocery stores we have. Even within couple miles, we may have about 4 or 5. I mean, that's a luxury. I was actually offered a position, an endowed position, at a university, which was kind of middle of nowhere, right? It's kind of Midwest, and I said, even before I do anything with this job, I need to first visit. And so we took a road trip, to just see. It's a beautiful campus, all of that. But I was like, where do we eat? Like, where's our grocery store? Where are our... So we found one, right? And I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know. I'm too pampered. I'm too spoiled here in Dallas with all of these various choices we have. Not just Asian. We love Mediterranean food, my husband and I. And we're always looking for some of those options. So you name it, and it's there, right? Ethiopian food. I mean, we love that too. And so any kind of cuisine, any kind of restaurant. The Asian Indian restaurants are just burgeoning. I mean, they're all over the place, and every time I turn around, there's a new one. And so that kind of, I think, even having that community there is so important. The vibrant, diverse community that Dallas offers. And another best thing is the airport we have. I mean, it's awesome, right? Just the connectivity is just great. I was just in Brazil, and had a direct flight from Dallas to Sao Paulo. You can pretty much go direct to places that normally, if I was in the middle of nowhere, I would have multiple flights, right? So are going to work related or for pleasure. I think, Dallas offers so much that I've learned to truly appreciate. And we've been to many places that now we think, I don't think we could live anywhere else but Dallas. And so this is truly home for us. We love Dallas. We love the community. Um, I think we'll be here for a long time. I never thought 16 years later that I would be here. I thought I'll be a couple years and we'll move out somewhere. But here we are. And like you said, we truly love it.
Same here. Whenever we travel, we actually look forward to coming back to Dallas. It's a very,
Yeah.
very nice feeling.
Yes.
Okay, so you travel a very long way in many different ways, like from India to China,
Mm,
from Arizona to New York to
mm,
Dallas. You also do
mm.
many, many things in your life. We're close to the end of the interview, and Meghna, how would you imagine your legacy to the world?
My
Thinking about all
legacy.
these things that you do in your life and all the possibilities,
Mm.
how would you imagine your legacy is?
I think of it maybe as twofold, my legacy. You know, one, as a scholar, because I think primarily at heart, we are researchers, we are faculty, and as a scholar doing work in public human resources, I always think of my area of research is creating inclusive work environments. I do a lot of work in that space in organizations, and I hope that I can always center the human experience. So when we talk about systems, we talk about public administration, we talk about policies, we often forget that humans are at the center of everything, right? Even organizations. So my work will hopefully reflect that, and continue to reflect that organizations can only be effective if we truly make the human experience fair. We make humans feel like they belong and supported. So if my research can help future scholars or practitioners kind of in that space and creating more humane workplaces, I think that would mean a great to me. And as a leader, I would think my legacy is, again, bringing my research into my work is building this community, making sure that faculty are successful, not just by, like I said, offering a bunch of workshops or, of course, mentoring and all of these, these are important, but to faculty truly feel like they belong, because faculty success and student success are directly linked. I know, yeah, any university focuses a lot on students, but unless our faculty feel like they are valued and supported and are able to give their best, we won't see that in student success, right? If the faculty experience is wonderful, automatically we will see that impact beyond, not just in the classroom, but beyond the classroom. So the hope is that we create a community of thriving faculty, that are feeling supported and where they can truly thrive and succeed at every step along the way. And I ultimately hope that, people remember that I tried to make a difference in whatever little way I could, and create a culture where, faculty feel like they're valued and empowered too. I think that's so important, and that would be truly worth everything.
You definitely make a difference. I have to say, last time I spoke at your panel, and after several weeks, surprisingly, I found a small gift, a tech kid's bag, a little bag, a pouch, and plus a handwritten thank you notes from you. And I felt very valued, as you said. And I feel like you definitely bring a hint of humanity, like
Mhm.
into the leadership style. So it's not about just like talking at a workshop or giving advice, but you do make people feel like they're heard at their value.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
so when we come to the end of the conversation, as someone who research on faculty success and
Mhm.
make a lot of initiatives, organizing workshops about university
Mhm. Mhm.
mentorship, and also as a role model and as an example, like have a clear pathway to leadership administration.
Mhm.
So, what are the things you would like us to know before we end this conversation?
I think my biggest advisor would be that give yourself permission to be human. Academia can truly feel like we must excel in every role at every time, as whether it's a researcher or teacher or mentor, and in our personal life as a parent, as a partner, so that is not a fair expectation that we should place on ourselves. Sometimes I feel we are our biggest critique, and we put all these pressures on our own selves. So so if you want to thrive, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about making intentional choices, setting some boundaries, giving yourself grace. And for women faculty, I would say that don't feel like you have to carry all this invisible labor alone, or you're alone in doing things. Lean into others, take support and help from people who'll be your advocates, and seek those corners. Sometimes new faculty, especially coming in, feel, oh my god, I'm in this alone, and you're not. I want to emphasize that you have a community, and lean into that community. I think that's very, very important. And of course, we also, have a lot of international faculty faculty, and I was an international faculty myself. And I think it's very, very important we recognize that their experiences are going to be different. It's a very layered experience for them, right? They have immigration challenges, they are doing cultural adjustments, they are away from their family, friends in a new environment, they are navigating all these political shifts on a day to day. So it creates a lot of fear and anxiety among even our international faculty. So I think UTD is a great place because you have probably one of the largest international student population. You have a large group of faculty. Again, I would say lean on their experiences. When you talk to people, you realize that you're not in this alone, and they have gone through this journey too. So I would say, seek that community, and we in our roles try to build that community. But also, I think for faculty, wherever you are, find that community for yourself who've gone through similar challenges. And remember, you're not alone in this. Build that uh, network of support for yourself. And so I would say finally just prioritize relationships. It's not about just our research and teaching and I have to run from one to the other, and we all have to. But I think cultivating those important relationships, those mentor relationships, relationship with other friends, collaborators, they take time, invest in it, and I think they really pay off in wonderful ways. So I would just say that I've been very privileged again to be able to serve in these roles, and I continue to learn every day, and hopefully I'll keep giving back to UTD and my community as best as I can.
Thank you so much, Magna. I'm very excited about all your new plans, especially to continue to bring humanities and communities into mentorship programs and leadership at the university. And wish you all the best with your future plans, including the upcoming trip to Hawaii with your family. And
Thank
I
you.
look forward to continue to working with you to bring talents to advocate for UT Dallas and also Texas. And maybe we can go to a Bollywood dancing recital together. And in fact, I just went to one last week at UTD, and it was absolutely wonderful about
Oh,
classical Indian dance. I'm a big fan.
oh,
Thank you so
wonderful,
much. And very,
wonderful.
you're a very kind and generous person. Always very fun to talk with you, and great to talk to you, Magna.
Thank you. I've genuinely enjoyed talking with you, and just I've also enjoyed listening to all your previous podcasts. And I want to especially thank you for curating this rich collection of conversations that are going to be very helpful. It is part of building that community and giving back. So thank you for doing your part. I truly enjoyed talking to you.
Can't do it without all the insights and experiences and experts from wonderful speakers like you, Magna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Happy to do this.
Talk to you next time.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye.
We have heard about Magna's experience. In an R1 university with over 35,000 students and over 1,000 faculty, Magna's pathway to leadership reminds me of the game of promotion, a historical Chinese board game to have the players roll the die to navigate in the Imperial Chinese officialdom. Teaching this game for many years in a college classroom, I always wonder how people get promoted in contemporary academia. Magna's serious experiences as the program head, the director for graduate studies, seemed to build up credentials to prove herself and advance in the academic officialdom. In addition, among all candidates, her unique approach of humanizing leadership and policies, drawing from her own research on public administration, probably make her case stand out. In a way, Magna's own experience as a first-generation immigrant and academic mother also shape her view about the importance of making community at work and in life. If you don't have one, create one for yourself. Magna might not agree, but as a historian, I found her detailed rundown of what her day is like as an associate provost, a teacher, a researcher, and chief editor of a journal, and a mother on a daily basis is both fascinating and valuable. There is no balance, only priorities. Last but not least, You probably don't hear a lot of academics say nice things about working and living in Texas, or Dallas specifically. I agree with Meghna. The food here is surprisingly good, and the two airports are life-saving for researchers to travel in and outside of the country. Thank you for listening. All feedback and suggestions are welcome. Are you interested in being the next guest for the podcast? Look forward to hearing from you and see you in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode of Tenure, a Game Manual, make sure to check out our other episodes. Or if you just can't get enough of us, follow us on social media at Tenure, a Game Manual. If you like what we do, consider leaving us a rating. This episode was produced by Sebastian Bencesco. Our executive producer and host is Dr. An Lee, and today's guest was Dr. Meghna Sabharwal. Sebastian Bencesco is also our editor, and we are generously sponsored by the Provost Teaching Fellow Program and the UT Dallas' Center for Teaching and Learning. Thanks for listening. We've now reached our special segment where this season we ask academic professionals a question. Make sure to stick around to the end of each episode to hear the next one. Today we spoke with Dr. Tom Henderson, a professor of international management and director of the BSBA program here at UT Dallas. We asked which book or article influenced your academic journey most.
So it was an article. It was an article I read in Business Week of all magazines. And the article was about the importance of understanding commodities hedging. So at the time, not being necessarily a numbers-oriented person or a finance-oriented person, I always had this perception that, commodities, futures, and options and derivatives, it's too complicated for me. I don't need to know that. But this article just simplified the concept to the point that it was so logical. I read this article and I thought a light bulb went on, and I thought, this is brilliant. Everyone should understand the essence of commodities hedging, why it's important. You can save millions of dollars as a business person understanding this basic concept. It's not complicated, but the way the article again brought this down into very real, easy to understand terms, for the lay person, it was awesome. And that, coming from industry, that obviously got me excited to go into industry and then to pursue this study of commodities hedging and futures contracts, derivatives, options, more on the academic side.